Nobody is thinking about you. We've made ourselves the star of our own story, but we forget that most people are busy being the star of theirs. This is episode 107. Welcome to the Living Inside Out podcast. I'm your host, Toks Aruture, entrepreneur with 20 years of experience, founder of The Baby Cut Shop, a luxury nursery furniture brand and design studio in Chelsea, London. I also founded The Revealery, an invitation-only exclusive furniture company. I'm a TEDx speaker and a mindset coach. This podcast is about embracing mindset shifts through life, business, and faith. Each week, we dive beneath the surface to uncover and challenge the limiting beliefs that hold us back, exploring how to live from the inside out. I believe God has equipped us with the resources to live the life we truly desire. So, if you're ready to use your natural gifts and step into your best self, let's get started. This week, I had the privilege of guest lecturing at Goldsmiths, University of London. I was invited to teach a class on entrepreneurship to the master's students studying luxury brand management. And I was in my zone because when I have the opportunity to use my voice, I grab it and I am incredibly blessed by it every single time. So here's why I come alive when I speak on stage. Firstly, I believe I'm gifted in communicating deep truths in a way that is easily understood by anyone, and I do so through speaking and writing. But the second reason happened some 13 years ago. I was with a group of friends and one of the ladies started talking about the challenges of raising children in the UK. My kids were little at the time, and the more she spoke, the more the dread grew. The dread as in, I was getting really, really scared, getting uncomfortable. You know what it's like if you're a parent, and especially when your children are still young, much of parenting, much of the challenges of parenting is mental. Am I doing it right? Are other people doing a better job than me? Is there something I should be doing? Am I failing my kids? It never stops. Well, that was me. So imagine being in that space and then someone comes and start talking about challenges I never even considered existed while I'm already dealing with the ones that I believe existed. Anyway, the atmosphere in the small room we were in started to feel very heavy, and grey, and I started to feel a bit hopeless, like I can't even do this thing right. It felt like the road ahead was just going to get worse until it became impossible for me. Guys, I have a wild imagination. It's great most of the time, but when it's bad, it's not very helpful. But as the meeting progressed, some lady stood up, an older lady, and she said, "Hey, let us pray." And she said a prayer that was along the lines of, "Lord, we've heard many things today, but let none of it come upon us." And whatever else she said, all I know is my peace was instantly restored. I felt lighter and hopeful and even happy. And in that moment, I made up my mind that I will be that older woman wherever I go, that wherever I go, my mouth will speak peace and my words will always bring peace to the privately struggling person, whether they ask for it or not. My kids even know the drill. I'm constantly speaking into them because I want to instill peace in them. I want them, if they were to find themselves in an unsettling situation and I'm not there, that my words will come back to them and they will be calm and hopeful again. But today, I want to address a question that one of the students asked. I talked about the mindset of entrepreneurship or the mindset of an entrepreneur and shared my business journey, but my intention was to share the reality of the life of a business owner or an entrepreneur without scaring them away from its challenges, because if you're in business, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It comes with the territory. And I think that judging by the response and the questions, which went on for a very long time, I think I succeeded in doing just that by the grace of God. By the grace of God, by the grace of God. And so the question that was asked was, how come you are so bold to share authentically? Where do you get the courage from? Don't you feel uncomfortable? And this lady was expressing her concerns about being so open about her journey and her challenges, because let's face it, most people hide challenges. Everybody wants to show up as being, everything's fine, even when it's not fine, because we don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. Many people are uncomfortable with, the truth is we prefer joy and happiness, and nobody wants to be the bearer of good news, and no one wants their life to be a representative, or they don't want to be a poster child for challenges. Anyway, I will share with you what I told her, but better still, I'm going to expound on my answer, because here we have more time. We have like 30 minutes. And again, thank you. I didn't say thank you, but thank you so much for tuning in, for joining in. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. If at the end of this episode you thought, this is good and I want more, I need you to do 3 things. Number 1, give me a 5-star rating. Number 2, subscribe. And number 3, share it. Okay, let's go. This woman's question was valid. I get that all the time. But here's what I said to her. Nobody is thinking about you. You see, we've made ourselves the star of our own story, which in itself is not entirely wrong. But we've also assumed that everyone has gathered to watch us perform, that they have us on their minds and they're judging us, or they're keeping score of when we slip up. The truth is, they are not. We are the ones that have a filter of our internal dialogue draped before our eyes and our minds and our ears. We are the ones that have set up a scale, standard, and we measure ourselves against that standard. It's true that someone may be judging and scorekeeping might be going on, but guess who the judge is? And the scorekeeper is? It's us. We are the judge. We are also the performer. This is a mindset that makes us too self-conscious to share openly, because our focus shifts from inspiring people and really getting them to hear our story or whatever it is we want to say onto, how do I impress this person? How do I make sure that I am coming across as, smart and intelligent and, not adult? We want to make sure that they approve of our performance. We convince ourselves that we mustn't make any mistakes because it will somehow reduce our perceived value in the world. I can say this with my full chest because that was me. And it still tempts me sometimes to think about myself. But because I'm aware of it, I'm able to, most of the time, shut down that voice. When it reached a point where I could no longer hold my gifting and I needed to start speaking, my obvious choice was medium, or rather my obvious choice was video. Now, I have been writing for years and writing was okay. My very first blog was called Pawpaw and Mango, which was a mishmash of life and motherhood and my childhood and business and everything. And it was fun. It was a fun place to be. And I had quite a number of subscribers to that blog. I loved writing it. I held nothing back. I was truly authentic there and I had fun. But guess what? It didn't have my name on it. People knew it was Stokes, but it didn't have my surname on it. And I just signed off as Pawpaw and Mango because I loved climbing mango trees when I didn't like mango. Anyway, I was a tree climber as a child, grew up in Benin. So Pawpaw and Mango was authentic. It was easy because it didn't have my face. It didn't have my name. It didn't have anything. Next blog was Inspire Me, which was more of an inspirational piece. And that had my name on it, but I was a lot more careful there. I wasn't, over the top there, but it was still quite a nice, inspiring blog. And that was great. So the natural transition was for me to start doing videos, because by this time Instagram was out and video blogs were a thing. And that was where I balked, because I just kept hearing this voice, not knowing it was my own voice, saying, well, people are going to think, who does she think she is? They're going to say, well, did we ask you? If you're Nigerian and you're listening to this, you know how sarcastic we can be and how caustic we can be as well with our words. And I had this imagination of a Nigerian association of critical people getting together and saying, who sent her? Yeah, is it my business? Why do I want to know? Did I ask you? I believed that people would judge the content, that they might call it lightweight, or is it even true, and all of that stuff, or that it was irrelevant to them. Now ask me, please, who are these they? Who are the people? The people that I had generated in my mind and given the scorecard to. They existed only in my mind. Now, you may be listening and say, hey, it's not in my mind. I really have an auntie that says things like that, or I have a friend, or even my parents have told me to be quiet, or don't use your gift, or people don't want to hear your story. Now, let me help you reframe your interpretation of their words, okay? It's not the words themselves that make the words true. It's the intention behind the words that carry the power. Now, I don't know what anyone's intention is, because to be fair, sometimes we don't even know what our intention is behind why we do what we do or say what we do, but we can speculate. Someone's demeaning you and putting you down because of the words you're saying. And this is all hypothetical, okay? Remember that we're speaking about imaginary words here and imaginary people, because this thing is existing only in your mind. We can speculate that, hey, anyone who has that intention or that thought is hurt, that they don't have the support that you do, the love that you do, the life that you do, and they're hurt that they don't have that. Or they may be envious. They may be envious of your confidence, that, hey, you never stop growing. I've actually had somebody, a real human, say that to me. Is it not enough? I had shared with them something I was planning on doing, and they're like, when are you going to stop? Is it not enough? And the way they said it was, you have achieved enough and you're doing so much. Why do you feel like you have to keep doing more things? It's enough. Rest. Now, anyway, do with that information what you will, but I know what it meant to me, because intention rides on the surface of words that are spoken. And if you're very sensitive, you can pick up the intention behind the words. They were not trying to get me to rest, by the way. That was not their intention. But I digress. So you might get people who are envious of your confidence, that you never stop growing and you're about to step out of your comfort zone by speaking about things. And they might have that desire to do the same themselves, but they just don't have the confidence to. They might be angry. They might be angry that you remind them of their own inadequacies. I mean, we could go on and on and on, but since you don't know what their intention is, you can't accurately decipher what the words mean, okay? Now, for that reason, we're going to ignore the presumed thoughts and intentions and words of other people, whether they are real people or not. So let's say that you've somehow managed to get past the words, and you've also gotten hold of some super duper mind reader, and you can see that those intentions are genuinely hurtful and that they genuinely think the things that you fear, and their goal is to communicate it to you. My question is, how is that your business? We live in this big old world. We're all here in the world, but we each live in our own little worlds. And the walls of our little worlds are made up of our thoughts and mindsets. And what's happening in their world is none of your business. In other words, people have a right to think anything they want to think about you in their little world, and it does not concern you. It's their prerogative. As a matter of fact, by the time you start trying to police other people's thoughts about you, you're getting into the zone of control, trying to control people. It's not your business what they think. It's not your business what they feel. Let them live their life with their own thoughts, with their own mindsets, with their own beliefs, and let them go in peace. Finally, nobody's thinking about you because they are busy thinking about themselves. Most people listen to conversations with themselves as the backdrop to the words they're listening to. They, not you, are the star, even if it's your story that's being told. And that's not being conceited. That's being human. It's called self-preservation. We have to keep our minds on ourselves because subconsciously our brains are wired to look out for danger. That's why we're always thinking about ourselves. Does it make sense now that nobody's thinking about you? They're thinking about themselves. Sometimes people listen to see how they can insert themselves into your story. Other times they're listening to see how your story can inspire them. So it's all about them. It's not about you. So how can you tell your story more authentically? I will share 3 tips. Number 1, get to know yourself. You can't be yourself if you don't know who you are. And one might ask, why is that even a thing? I know myself. Maybe. Or maybe not. Because you're so dynamic as a person that there is so much left to discover. I don't care how old you are. When you factor in age, circumstance, hormones, the people in your life, the news of the world, the weather, especially if you're in a place like the United Kingdom, the economy, parking tickets, 20 miles per hour driving speed limit, London, thank you very much. Then you realize that there are limitless variables depending on how these factors intersect. I know that when I was in my 30s, my thought process was completely different to how I thought in my 40s and how I think now in my 50s. My thought process has changed even in the last, 3 months. Completely. I feel like I'm a different personality, a different human from who I was 3 months ago. When you factor in challenges and how it erodes the parts of you that stick out, or you factor in wonderful life experiences, relationships with people, and how it affects your psyche, you realize that saying I know myself is redundant because you're constantly changing, you're constantly evolving. You can recognize certain patterns and you can recognize your tendencies. And it's so helpful when you take time out to do so through introspection. Self-reflection is valuable, and journaling is my go-to tool. I have always wanted to do a class on journaling. I've done it once, I think, in the past. But if you are interested in how to use journaling to move your life forward, please let me know. I think it's worth doing it. Maybe we'll do it at the end of the year. Actually, I do want to do a Zoom session at the end of the year, which will be free to attend. If you're interested, please send an email to papapaalpha@talksaratory.com. I haven't quite decided on what the topic will be, but if you are subscribed to my newsletter or we are connected on social media, then you will receive a notification. But I did one last year and it was very, very well attended and people were blessed by it. So if you want to be blessed by it too, I would love to invite you. There's no cost to attend, but you have to register. So when you consider all of the possibilities of who you are as a person, you realize that daily introspection, self-reflection is something you've got to do and dig out and uncover who you are. Now, when you uncover who you are, you discover who you are, right? You find out who you are, your thought processes. Now, a lot of people don't do this because they're scared of seeing uncomfortable truths about themselves. There is some false safety in believing that it's better to be in ignorance and assume the best than be in the know and see the worst. And I don't agree with that because all of you is who you are. Like whether it's ugly, whether it's good, whether it's bad, that is you. And if you're hiding from certain aspects of yourself, it makes you wonder, do you truly love yourself? And so if you're struggling to see, your core and your thoughts and your heart, I want to encourage you that there is nothing inside there that's going to floor you. As a matter of fact, you're going to be so inspired because you'll discover gifts and abilities and character traits and, all of that goodness that you've never even considered. So journaling is really powerful, especially when you ask yourself powerful questions to bring out the essence of you. Now, this leads me to tip number 2, which is ask this question. What is my intention? I didn't mean to rhyme, but it came out that way. What is my intention? Intention is different from desire or want. Your intention is the true reason behind your words or actions. For example, if I decide to roll up at a party, I know that my friends are all there, but I've timed it because they've agreed that, hey, at 8 p.m. on the dot, we're going to go outside and take some pictures. And that's when I decide to roll up in my brand new, Range Rover, and I ignore all the parking spaces behind and I want to park right in front where I know they are. My true intention is not to get to the party and get there at 8 p.m. so I can take pictures with my friends. No, my true intention is I want them to see my brand new car. And behind that intention might be another, I want to feel worthy because they're going to admire my car and say I've done well. So knowing your true intention is powerful. It's uncomfortable initially when you first start to do this, but eventually you discover, actually, there isn't an ogre living inside of me. It's just me. Learning what your true intention is, especially when you are in a space where insecurities might show up, that's a really powerful question to ask. What is my intention? It's a game changer. And yes, it might expose the less attractive side of us, which is why we avoid it. But in exposing the less attractive side of us, it also shows up or reveals the limiting thoughts that created that intention. And limiting thoughts are the reasons why we can't access our gifts, because those thoughts layer and hide the gift. And if you cannot access your gift or your superpower, you're going to remain ordinary. The extraordinary life that you have pictured and you're capable of doing will remain just a picture, because you need your gift to get there. You need your authentic self to get there. So I want you to come to a place of being comfortable with all of you, including the unsightly parts of you. I don't want you to continue to run away from meeting yourself. And when you meet yourself, celebrate what you find, celebrate your abilities and celebrate the way you think and celebrate your thought processes and be in awe. Like when you discover something unique about yourself, say, wow, look at how I'm thinking. Talk to yourself in second person even. Look at how your thinking talks. I do that regularly, and society is going to call it arrogance or pride, but that is their business, because no one's going to celebrate the parts of me that only I can see. I am worth celebrating. You're worth celebrating, so do it. If you're hiding the truth from yourself, you cannot be authentic with yourself or with anybody else. So make sure you ask why. The question is, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why did I say yes when I meant no? Why did I say no when I meant yes? What was my intention? What was I hoping to get out of it? Why is a 3-letter word that's packed with an incredible amount of power. So I'll give you an example. I discovered recently that my default thought following the suggestion of stepping out of my comfort zone is to find the reasons why I shouldn't move forward. And it's not very obvious. It wasn't obvious to me at all until I was in a quiet place and God literally pointed out to me and said, you always start with, how can I not do this, as opposed to, how can I do it? So I began to observe and notice it was 100% true. And when I say everything, I mean everything. It's actually become a habit. It's become a pattern, down to simple things like, I want to tidy up my room on a Sunday. And the first thing is, yeah, but if you do, you won't be able to make a nice dinner for the kids, So that's just me. And it's me not necessarily looking for the easy life, but it is avoiding anything that would take away what my mind has interpreted as ease. So it's avoiding discomfort on any level. And that's dangerous because you cannot thrive in your comfort zone. It's not possible. Your comfort zone is the place that you have. How can I put it? Your comfort zone is living in a space that you have outgrown. If you're going to expand any further, you've got to get out of it. I'm sure you've heard that analogy of goldfish, that if you place goldfish in a small goldfish bowl, it grows to a certain size. But if you put that same goldfish in a bigger tank, it grows even bigger. There's a lot of space around it still in the smaller bowl, but the size of the bowl restricts the growth of the fish. If you put it in a bigger fish tank, it grows bigger. If you put it in the sea, it grows even bigger. Well, it will get eaten by sharks, but it will grow bigger because for you to expand, you need more space. When you're in your comfort zone is going to look like there's a lot of space around you and there is a lot more growing to be done. And there's so much more I want to do. I hear people all the time talk about wanting to start a business and then they're like, yeah, I will start, but first I want to do this, that, and that. What's happening is they're looking at the space around them and they think they're going to one day fill it. But like the goldfish in a bowl, it's not going to happen. To grow bigger, they need a bigger space and it's always uncomfortable. And my final tip is practice what you're going to say by writing it down first. My Rockstar Story courses help you to tell your story authentically, but it also teaches you to do so in a way that converts self-consciousness into an empowerment tool. It will inspire you, it will inspire others, and it will build you as a brand. Oversharing is not the same as authenticity, by the way. And I see a lot of people oversharing when they're trying to be authentic. Oversharing has the intention of wanting to come across as authentic, while authenticity has the intention of showing up as your true self, letting your light shine so that it can illuminate other people's paths. And you're willing to sacrifice your personal pride should you get judged in the process. So authenticity is a form of sacrifice as well. Oversharing operates on a superficial level, while authenticity comes from deep waters. And there's some scriptures that talk about deep waters. One says, counsel in the heart of a man. Counsel in the heart of a man is like a deep water, but a wise man will draw it out. And it suggests that deep waters is a place where you will find wisdom. And you've got to excavate well, you don't excavate waters, but you need to dig deep down to draw it out. All the scriptures that talk about it, I will find them and definitely put them in the show notes. And so write out your story and then read it back to yourself aloud and share what you're comfortable with. And when I say comfortable, I don't mean comfortable, i.e. not self-conscious. I mean comfortable, i.e. you are not talking about an area that you are yet to heal from. You're not talking about other people without their consent in the story. And what that does is prevent you from dumping negative emotions on the audience. And then you keep reading that story until it becomes second nature to you. And this ensures that you only say what you want to say, but also it gives you the natural cadence when speaking because it is your story and you're not having to pretend or perform. If you'd like to know more about my coaching services, either one-to-one or group coaching or the Write Your Rockstar Story coaching class or workshop, please send an email to papaalpha@toxarotory.com. I'm also active on Instagram and LinkedIn, also Facebook. So let's connect there. Facebook is not my friend right now because one, they suspended me about 2 weeks ago. If you listen to episode 105, I talked about the experience of the disruption that brought and how I handled it. I recommend it. It's a very, very, very good one. We've also got a YouTube channel, and on YouTube, you will find episodes with actual guests. Yeah, you can see them, not just audio, along with the interviews I've given. So I've got guests like my dear friend and sister, Susie Bannerman, my dear friend and sister, Titi, that's not out yet. My dear friend and sister, Tommy, wrote to me, that's not out yet. And there is Gertrude Mache, which I recommend you definitely listen to. And a few other great people like Elizabeth Solaru, who recently launched her book on luxury for the entrepreneur. It's called The Luxpreneur. There are older episodes as well with Beverly Adaize, the international slave mama, Celia Tokes of Celia Tokes and her family. Oh, there's great stuff and interviews as well. Great interviews and podcasts where I've guested on other people. So head to YouTube and subscribe to it. But I really need you to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening. And if you're able to give a rating and you loved this episode, give it a 5-star rating. You are amazing. Till next time, live from the inside out.